Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into another epic tale? This time we're journeying to ancient India with Amish Tripathi's The Immortals of Meluha. It's the first book in his Shiva Trilogy, and, well, let's just say, get ready for a wild ride.
Oh, absolutely. This is no ordinary mythology retelling. Tripathi weaves a fascinating blend of history and fantasy, reimagining the story of Lord Shiva, but around 1900 BC.
1900 BC, I mean, that's a specific time period, which is not something you always see in these kinds of stories, right? Like, it really sets the stage for how ancient societies operated back then.
It definitely adds a layer of realism, grounding the fantastical elements in a tangible historical context. We see how societal structures, beliefs, and even the political landscape of that era shape the characters and the choices they make.
Right, so let's talk about Shiva. Now, he's not the god we might expect, at least not at the start of the book.
No, not at all. We first meet Shiva as a young tribal leader living near Mount Kailash. He leads the Gunas, a tribe constantly struggling for resources, often clashing with a rival tribe called the Pakratis.
Yeah, the Gunas. They're tough, resilient, used to hardship. And Shiva, he embodies those qualities. He's a pragmatic leader, devoted to his people, and a bit skeptical, especially when the Meluhans enter the picture.
The Meluhans. Now, they're a fascinating bunch. They present themselves as this advanced, almost utopian society, promising peace and prosperity, a stark contrast to the harsh reality of tribal life.
Exactly. So how does Shiva react to this? Like, is he immediately drawn to their promises?
He's intrigued, for sure, but also cautious. Shiva's no fool. He agrees to meet their representative, Nandi, but on his own terms. He holds Nandi as insurance, basically, to ensure the safety of his people. Shows you the kind of leader he is always putting his tribe first.
Makes sense. It's a big decision, uprooting an entire tribe based on promises. So they journey to Meluha and...
And on his very first night in this supposed utopia, Shiva sustains a serious injury.
Oh, no.
But here's the twist. He wakes up the next day, completely healed, with a blue throat.
Wait, a blue throat? That sounds familiar.
It should. The Meluhans have this prophecy about a savior, the Nilkanth, who will have a blue throat and lead them to victory. You can see where this is going.
Wow. So they think Shiva is this prophesied savior, destined for greatness. But does Shiva even know about this prophecy at this point?
Not a clue. He's been thrust into this role, this destiny, without any real understanding of what it means. Imagine waking up with a blue throat and suddenly everyone is treating you like a god.
Yeah, talk about a culture shock. That's got to be a lot to process, especially for a guy like Shiva who's used to a very different life. And to add to that, Meluha itself is, well, it's unlike anything he's ever seen.
Exactly. Meluha is a land of order, abundance, and advanced technology. They have planned cities, amazing infrastructure, things, standardized brick-making processes, impressive drainage systems.
That's a far cry from tribal life. What's Shiva's first impression?
He's amazed, of course, by their advancements. But then, as he delves deeper into their society, he starts noticing the complexities.
There's always a catch, right? Every society has its complexities.
What stands out to Shiva? Well, their rigid caste system is a big one. The Brahmins, or the tribe of Brahma, they're at the top. They control knowledge, governance, and they're the ones who administer this mysterious drink called somras.
Somras, okay. What is that exactly?
It's believed to be the source of Meluhan longevity and health. Think of it as an elixir of sorts, carefully controlled by the Brahmins.
So it's not just a drink, it's like a symbol of their power, right?
Exactly.
Oh.
And this control over something so vital, it adds another layer to their already significant authority in Meluhan society.
And how does Shiva, a guy who comes from a much more egalitarian background, how does he view all of this?
Not so well. The whole caste system, the idea of some people being inherently superior to others, it just doesn't sit right with him. He even encounters the concept of vikarma, individuals deemed impure due to circumstances like illness.
Vikarma, that sounds harsh.
It is, and it really begins to challenge Shiva's perception of this seemingly perfect society. He sees the cracks, the inequalities.
So even as they hail him as this great savior, the Nilkanth, he's already starting to have his doubts.
Exactly. Remember, Meluhan society is built on the principles of Ram Raja, the ideal rule of Lord Ram. But their interpretation emphasizes duty, order, even above individual rights, a far cry from what Shiva believes in.
A clash of ideologies brewing right from the start. This is already shaping up to be an incredible story, but we'll have to continue this discussion next time. So until then, keep those questions coming and keep exploring.
It's like looking at two sides of the same coin, you know. Mua with its order, its focus on duty, and then you have Swadweep, embracing chaos, celebrating individual freedom.
Right. It's this constant contrast that makes it so fascinating. We've talked about the Meluhans, their advanced society, but also their rigid structure. How does Shiva actually experience these complexities?
Well, take the caste system, for instance. He sees firsthand how it creates inequality. Individuals labeled as vikarma, they're ostracized, denied opportunities.
Like Sati.
Exactly. Sati, the emperor's daughter.
She's brilliant, compassionate, but still considered a vikarma. It's heartbreaking.
It really is. And it challenges everything Shiva believes in,
Yeah.
He can't accept that someone like Sati is deemed impure just because of this label. It goes against his very nature.
And then there's that scene where he refuses the purification ritual after touching a vikarma. Powerful moment.
Oh, incredibly powerful. It shows that Shiva is not afraid to challenge tradition, especially when it conflicts with his sense of what's right. He's not going to blindly follow rules that dehumanize others.
It's a big statement, especially in society that values order and obedience above all else. But Meluha isn't all bad, is it? I mean, they've got some pretty impressive stuff going on. Their technology, the Micah system.
Oh, for sure. They're incredibly advanced. Think about the Micah system, for example. Children are raised communally and then assigned to families based on aptitude, not lineage. It's an attempt to create a truly meritocratic society.
It's a radical concept, raising some big questions about family and societal structures.
Absolutely. It's a bold experiment, and Tripathi explores both the potential benefits and the complexities of such a system.
Makes you wonder about the balance between individual freedom and societal good, doesn't it?
Definitely. And speaking of individual freedom, that's where the Chandravanshis, the people of Swadweep, come in. They're like the flip side of Meluha.
So if Meluha is all about order, what's Swadweep like?
Swadweep is chaos personified. Think vibrant cities like Ayodhya, a mix of architectural styles, bustling with life. Individual expression reigns supreme. It's a stark contrast to Meluha's carefully controlled environment.
It sounds almost intoxicating, but that kind of freedom must have its downsides too, right?
Oh, definitely. Swadweep struggles with poverty, inequality, and corruption runs rampant. Their infrastructure is crumbling, and their government is.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say it's not exactly efficient.
So both societies, they have their strengths, their flaws. Neither is perfect.
Exactly. And that's what makes the story so engaging. It avoids these easy judgments of good versus evil. It's more nuanced than that.
And Shiva, caught between these two worlds, I mean, how does he navigate this?
It's a tough balancing act, especially with his growing feelings for Sati.
Yeah, his relationship with Sati of Vikarma, it really challenges the core of Meluhan society, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It forces everyone around them to confront their prejudices, to see beyond these labels they've created.
And it shows the power of individual connection to bridge societal divides. Like, love doesn't care about social status.
It doesn't. And then things take a darker turn when Mount Mandar is attacked.
Mount Mentar.
The source of Somras, the heart of Meluhan society. And it's attacked by the Nagas, this mysterious, ostracized group.
Okay, that's a big deal. Somers is vital to them. How does this attack change things?
It throws everything into chaos. It exposes Meluha's vulnerability, and it devastates Shiva. His close friend, Brahaspati, the chief scientist, he's killed in the attack.
So not only is their way of life threatened, but Shiva's also dealing with immense personal loss.
Exactly. It pushes him to a breaking point. Grief and rage, they consume him, and he vows revenge.
Against the Chandravanshis.
Yes. The Meluhans believe the Chandravanshis orchestrated the attack, and this leads to a declaration of war. A war Shiva believes is justified, necessary even.
But wait, didn't you say he's starting to have doubts about the Chandravanshis?
He is, and this internal conflict, it's tearing him apart. On one hand, he's this prophesied hero, the Nilkanth, leading an army to war. But on the other, he's questioning everything, the justifications for the war, the true nature of the enemy. It's a heavy burden to carry.
And even as he leads this war, he forms the Vikarma Brigade,
A brigade made up of those who Meluha has cast aside, considered impure.
showing how his beliefs are shifting even as he's fighting this war.
Right. He's seeing the strength, the value in those who have been marginalized.
But the doubts linger, don't they? Especially after he captures Dilipa.
Dilipa, the Chandravanshi emperor. His capture is a turning point for Shiva.
How so?
Dilipa pleads his innocence. He insists that his people had nothing to do with the attack on Mount Mandar. He paints a completely different picture of the Chandravanshis, one that challenges everything Shiva has been told.
So now he's really starting to question everything. The foundation of the war, the Molahan leadership, his own role.
It's a major crisis of faith. He's been used, manipulated, countless lives lost based on what could be a lie. And this realization sends him on a quest for truth, a journey to the heart of Swadweep, to Ayodhya.
Ayodhya, wow. The birthplace of Lord Ram, a place revered by both the Suryavanshis and the Chandravanshis, despite their differences. What happens there?
That's where everything changes. He starts to see the world through different eyes, you know. He immerses himself in Swadweepan culture, experiences their way of life, their interpretation of Lord Ram.
And it's different from the Meluhan perspective.
Very different.
Yeah.
The Meluhan see Ram as a symbol of order and duty. The Swadweepans embrace his teachings in a way that celebrates individuality and freedom.
So, two very different interpretations of the same figure. How does this impact Shiva?
He starts to question the rigid black and white thinking that has defined his time in Meluha. The enemy, the Chandravanshis, they're not this monolithic entity. They're people with their own beliefs, their own hopes and fears.
And then comes the big revelation, right? The truth about the attack on Mount Mandar.
Oh, that changes everything. He discovers that it wasn't the Chandravanshis who attacked Mount Mandar, but a rogue Naga. And this information, it was deliberately kept from him.
Wait, so they manipulated him into waging this war. That's a huge betrayal.
It is. It shatters his trust in the Meluhan leadership. He realizes that the line between good and evil is not so clear. Even those who claim to be righteous can deceive and manipulate.
So where does this leave him? I mean, he's questioning everything. His role as the Nilkanth, the war itself. What happens next?
It's like his whole world has crumbled around him. You know, the war, the loss of his friend, and now this betrayal. He's at a crossroads.
Gotta be tough, grappling with that disillusionment. The Meluhans who worshipped him used him. And the Chandravanshis who he saw as the Emmy might not be so bad after all.
Exactly. It makes you question everything you thought you knew. Where does he even go from here? He's in Ayodhya, surrounded by Swadweepan culture, searching for something.
Some kind of guidance, maybe? Answers?
Maybe. It's in Ayodhya that he encounters the Vasudevs, these mysterious guardians of the Mahadev.
Mahadev.
The greatest god, the ultimate deity. And the Vasudevs, they've been guiding the Mahadev for generations.
So do they give Shiva the answers he's looking for? Set him straight?
Not exactly. They don't offer easy solutions. What they do is offer perspective. They tell him stories of past Mahadevs, great leaders who are also misled, manipulated.
So they're showing him that this cycle of power, deceit, it's been happening for a long time.
Right. It's a pattern that repeats itself. And they emphasize the dangers of blind faith, of blindly following anyone, even those who seem righteous.
Powerful message, like, think for yourself, question everything.
Exactly. The Vasudevs, they empower Shiva to find his own truth, to forge his own path.
A path that's probably a lot more complicated than he initially thought it would be.
Definitely. It's not about easy answers anymore. It's about embracing the complexity, seeing the world in shades of gray.
And facing the consequences of his actions, even those he thought were justified.
Exactly. He's carrying a heavy burden. And it's in this state of turmoil that he finds himself drawn to the Ramjanmabhoomi temple.
The birthplace of Lord Ram. That seems significant.
It is. Remember, both the Meluhans and the Chandravanshis revere Ram, but their interpretations of his teachings are so different.
Right. Totally different approaches. One focused on order, the other on freedom. What does Shiva find in that temple? Peace.
He finds something more profound than just peace. In that sacred space, stripped of his certainty, his arrogance, he connects with the divine. He's not looking for answers anymore. He's looking for understanding.
Understanding of what? Himself, the world.
Everything. The war, his role in it, the choices he's made. He's seeking forgiveness, guidance. It's a moment of profound vulnerability.
You don't often see that kind of vulnerability from a character like Shiva.
True. But it's a reminder that even the strongest among us grapple with doubt, with the weight of our choices.
And in that temple, surrounded by these contrasting interpretations of Lord Ram, Shiva finally grasps the true meaning of the Nilkanth prophecy.
He realizes that being the Nilkanth, the destroyer of evil, it's not about blind destruction, not about waging war against those who are different.
So it's not about brute force. What is it about then?
It's about understanding, empathy, bridging divides. It's about seeking peace through reconciliation, through recognizing our shared humanity.
It's a far more challenging path, requiring compassion, not just strength.
Absolutely. It's about acknowledging the complexities, the gray areas, and choosing a path of healing, not just destruction.
That's a powerful message, especially given everything Shiva's gone through, everything he's been led to believe.
It is, and it leaves us with a sense of hope, a glimmer of possibility that even amidst conflict, even after all the loss, there's a chance for redemption, for growth.
A chance for the Suryavanshis and the Chandravanshis to coexist peacefully, to learn from each other.
To build a future together. And that's a message we could all use a little more of these days, don't you think?
Absolutely. The Immortals of Meluha, it's a story that challenges our perceptions of good and evil, of leadership, and of what it truly means to build a better world. It's a story that stays with you long after you finish the book.
It certainly does. It reminds us that even in a world that often feels divided, there's always hope. Hope for peace, for understanding, for connection.
And that's something worth fighting for. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Immortals of Meluha. We hope you'll continue to explore these thought-provoking themes with us. And until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep the conversation going.